Now then, people, and welcome back to the Just Your Football Show. We're going to try something a little bit different today. I'm trying to diversify the content and, increase viewership. So if you could smash me a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and, of course, hit that notification bell. And today we're going to be chatting about the drastic changes that are about to hit the Premier League, which hopefully will involve Leeds United next season and could actually have a massive plus when it comes to our football clubs. Maybe not some of the smaller clubs, but basically the Premier League's profit and sustainability regulations are set to be replaced as early as this summer. Okay, the new regulations will allow clubs to spend as much as 85% of their revenue. Now, of course, this is a significant change when you consider they're currently in court with clubs like Everton, Forest, over points deductions through breaches of profit and sustainability. And it's clear it's caused a lot of issues for a number of clubs. Even some of the biggest earning clubs, some of the top 6 clubs are having to tighten their belt because the P&S rules state, look, you can't spend money because you will make a loss over 3 seasons, right? Now, the current regulations stipulate that you can spend up to 90% of your current revenue, which will eventually reduce down to around about 70% by 25-26. However, that comes under PSR, Profit and Sustainability Rules, which says that you're allowed to make losses of up to 5 million per season, averaged over 3 seasons, okay? That can be increased to 35 million per year with owner investment, and that has to be averaged over 3 seasons. Now, these rules are designed to ensure that clubs spend within their means, okay, and maintain financial stability. In writing, in practice, they seem to be good, but as we can see, it is causing a hell of a lot of problems in the league, and meaning that the Premier League are having to act and actually take, clubs to court, keep them to a task, which has caused problems and obviously a lot of complaints amongst fan bases, amongst clubs themselves. And it's almost as if the Premier League have gone, damn, this is causing us too many problems. Let's switch it up, okay? Because, of course, there's talk of an independent regulator. That's why they're originally enforcing the rules, and it's like they're trying to keep them away from the door. It was only the other day that I was listening to Stick to Football, and Gary Neville was talking about something like this, that let's say, for example, Manchester United's revenue is 600 million, then you're allowed to spend up to that, and everyone's allowed to spend up to whoever's got the biggest revenue within the league, which I guess gives parity. It enables clubs to come in with a multi-billion owner like a Newcastle and say, right, okay, who brings in the most revenue? Man United at 600 million, we can spend up to that, right? Which in principle sounds okay. It means you can get maybe, a big mega rich owner like an Abramovich coming to your football club. Currently, that's not going to work. We're seeing that with Newcastle. They're the richest club in the world and can't spend money. There's even talk of them having to sell players like Bruno Guimaraes or Alexander Isak just so that they can then re-spend. And that always stunts their growth. So that idea actually sounds okay. However, this is what is being put forward by the Premier League. The Premier League is saying that as of next season, we will allow spending up to 85% of your revenue. So it'll be interesting to see how clubs go about that, mainly the smaller clubs. How do they adapt? Because it's all good and well saying you can spend 85% of your revenue, good times. However, Luton's revenue is no way comparable to anyone in the top 6. So again, it creates disparity for me. And it would take a rich oligarch, a state, to come in and say to a club like Luton, okay, we'll bankroll you. Basically, this revamp is to align more closely with what's going on around Europe, okay? And more specifically, UEFA's financial sustainability regulations. And ultimately, it will reshape the financial landscape of the Premier League. So ultimately, this new framework will allow clubs to spend 85% of their revenue on squad costs, transitioning from the current PSR model that limits clubs to losses of 105 million over a 3-year period. Now, the change is being packaged as an effort to modernise financial regulations and ensure that they're more in line with European standards. As I said right at the start as well, it's important to note that this new system will not affect ongoing cases such as Everton, Forest, City. But my thing is with that is like, if you go to court and you're Everton, you're saying, hang on a minute, we're going to get points deductions, but from next season, no one's going to get that again. And I personally don't think that's fair. I thought PSR was brought in and I was thinking, do you know what? And my club's operated within the rules. These haven't, so therefore they should be rightly punished. However, it's not fair to then a couple of years later say, oh, we've changed it now, but you're still going to get your punishment. So if I'm an Everton or Forest fan and these changes happen and we still receive a points deduction, I would be raging. And you can tell, like, the Premier League, for me, seems to be like rushing around trying to resolve this so they're not having to take clubs to court because they're willing to put it in as early as this summer, which means it's going to affect my club going into the Premier League as well, which, if I'm honest, isn't such a bad thing. Because according to Football Money League that was done by Delotti back in 21-22, Leeds United, in terms of revenue, are within the top 20 in Europe. You're talking Real Madrid at the top, you've got Liverpool, you've got City, Arsenal, I think Leicester in there, Everton, Newcastle. We're actually higher in terms of revenue than Newcastle and an Everton. So that means Leeds United, my club, will be able to spend more, have more financial might when they do enter the Premier League, because our revenue dwarfs quite a lot of teams already in the Premier League. Like more than half, 11 clubs to be exact, of the top 20 are from the Premier League. Now, of course, I like to think of myself as a socialist on the left. You know, when we talk about the proletariat, the bourgeoisie, you know, the rich get richer, this enables that for me. So what does this mean for smaller clubs? The likes of a Burnley, a Luton, a Sheffield United, for example. I think it could have a profound effect on them. Of course, there are opportunities, but it does also offer a lot of challenges. They will have more spending freedom, of course. If you have money to spend, it's within the revenue, 85%, yeah, you can spend it. Your revenue increases when you go up to the Premier League anyway, so you're going to be able to flash the cash. However, as I've mentioned already, there's a disparity. There's a big risk for me that these new regulations could exacerbate the financial gap between them smaller clubs and, of course, the wealthier counterparts. Let's talk about Manchester United, for example, Liverpool. These clubs are absolutely huge and dwarf the majority of teams. So how can small clubs ever compete? And of course, if you're spending crazy and you get relegated, therefore, you know, is your revenue going to be anywhere close to what it was when you were in the Premier League? No. Will you have, you know, I guess this again is back on the owners then. And as a Leeds United fan, I know firsthand that when an owner is frivolous with cash, you can end up down in League One. I look at a club like Sheff Wednesday, for example. Their owner's mad. I almost feel Forest owner's a bit of a madcap guy as well. And these sort of guys you feel could just say at any moment, I'm done. And then what? At least currently with PSR, there are stipulations that stop you ever getting into these types of issues. Ultimately, I feel it's sort of like an unfair prejudice. How can you ever expect a smaller club, let's be honest, like a Luton Town, and I'm sorry to always use these, but I think it's a great example, to ever compete with a Manchester United again? I mean, some will say they never should be able, right? Like, but you get my point. Those that are already at the top of the game will stay at the top of the game unless you get a mega rich owner who's willing to spend 85% of that revenue. So what I will say now is, like, top six get put on notice because Newcastle are coming. Let's just take Newcastle. They're worried that they're going to have to sell an Isak, a Bruno Guimaraes. There'll be suitors for them. However, in the summer, if you then turn around and say, oh no, PSR's no more, you can spend 85% of your revenue. And you know maths isn't my strong point, but let's say, for argument's sake, Newcastle's revenue is 200 million. They can then spend 170 million. Now, of course, their owners are going to spend that. So, of course, it's exciting for Newcastle fans. We can finally spend the money that's there. But then you also have to spare a thought for those whose revenues nowhere close to that, who don't have mega rich states in order to help fund them. I just think as well, it could mean football will get silly again, if it isn't already silly enough. But we know, right, we've seen mad money be spent on players, over 100 million. PSR sort of stops that. It means that people have to be a little bit more frugal, a little bit more prudent. However, if you open up the purse strings again, then of course clubs will want massive money. Again, players will want bigger salaries, and those wealthier clubs will have to pay them, which, again, knock-on effect. What's that thing that the Tories once said? Trickle-down economics. What will happen is it'll fall down the pyramid, and those that are further down the pyramid will have to pay more for what is a bang average player. We'll have to pay them more week in, week out for what we would consider a bang average player. As a content creator, like, it means it's exciting times, right? It means, look at the January transfer window, for example. It was the lowest spending window for quite some time, right? I think, if the purse strings get open again, it's party time. It's party time in the Premier League, which as a content creator, great. As a Leeds United fan, we're up there, top 20, biggest clubs in Europe for revenue. Happy days for me. But I just think overall, it's not good for the game. But please do let me know your thoughts on this topic, on this video. As I said, I'm going to try diversify, speak about more clubs, try and enlarge the content for other viewers to be able to enjoy. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Did you like it? Please do, because as I say, I do listen and I do watch, and as I say, I'm just trying to grow organically, try different things, and I want you to let me know what you thought of this video. Please do smash a like on it, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in a bit.